best anime of all time is Macross Plus. No, like, is it? I don't know though what the best. I grew up with Gatchaman, so I've got like a funny fucking old man attitude to anime, you know. I don't know how to play chess. Never played it. I've sort of, I think I have played it a couple of times, but somebody had to walk me through what I was doing, so I'm shit at chess. I haven't got a good enough memory for it. Thoughts on spiritual queer interpretations of your music? I know people like Sophie struck me like being interested in electronic. I don't really have a stance on that because I'm not queer enough to have an understanding of what that experience is like, especially for trans people. Not that trans people are queer, but you know, they get bracketed together, don't they? But I don't really know. I know I liked a lot of gay music growing up though. I loved Coil and synth pop in general. There's you know, a lot of the artists were gay, so. And I know Depeche Mode used to flirt a lot with that kind of imagery. But you know, in the early 80s, it was like one of the main sources of electronic music was the gay scene. So, and in Manchester originally, when the house scene kicked off in sort of 86, 87, it was mainly the gay scene who were into it, apart from, you know, black kids on my side and that. So it was like, yeah, weird overlaps for us, you know what I mean? I always found it like a real source of kind of a different kind of energy. So I've always been interested in that stuff, but as an outsider, pretty much. Hannah mentioned recent-ish that there was going to be a follow-up to Cavity Job called Wildstyle, but it didn't happen. Was the tune recorded though? No. But we talked about it. Could ask how David Lynch has influenced your practice or work. I don't know if I know how. I'm sure he has, because he's been a big influence. I think the first thing I ever saw by him was The Elephant Man, and I was really kind of repulsed and drawn in at the same time, and it was really sad. It made me feel like more sad than anything I'd seen. I remember seeing that and feeling, and I had the same feeling watching Frankenstein actually, the original. I don't know if it's the original or whatever, but it was an old black and white Frankenstein film, and there was a kind of deep sadness there as well. Like, so yeah, that was the first experience, and then Eraserhead, and then Blue Velvet, sort of in that order. But yeah, like, I think Blue Velvet was the one where I was really like, wow, what is this vibe? Like, this is weird. Like, Eraserhead obviously had a huge impact on me and continues to. Mainly just the use of sound and the sort of emptiness and the bleakness of the settings I found weirdly relatable, because it's a bit like wandering around an old... Because I used to live quite close to an industrial estate that you could get onto quite easily and just wander around. And at nights, that place was fucking strange. Like, it had a really odd vibe to it, and as a young kid it has a, you know, you feel it's strange. It's not like a normal place, an industrial estate. They're weird places, and there were bits of that film that reminded me a bit of that. So, but he just turned up the bleak to like a million. So in a photo you were wearing a beautiful DBC32 databank. What's your favourite wristwatch? Probably one of the, like, 81, to, I can't remember what year exactly. It was an AE. Was it an AE11 or an AE12? I can't remember. It was one of the ones with a split face. So at the top it had a fake analog LCD, and the bottom was like a digital display, and then it had like little notches in the side between the buttons, and then a blue outline. I used to love that thing. I thought it was aesthetically amazing. But yeah, I've got a lot of Casios. Like I used to slightly collect them because they were quite cheap. And for a while they just weren't at all popular. People had stopped wearing watches by that point, or they, when the Swatch thing happened, that pretty much killed Casios for a while in a fashion sense. But I kept buying them because I just liked them. Got loads. I really like the solar one. I've got a solar one, and it works without a battery. It's just got a capacitor in it, like a slow discharge capacitor in it, which I think is amazing. Like, some of their designs are really good internally. Casio are a great company, I think. Super interesting. Could you talk further on your relationship with John Balance? Not really. I mean, I kind of... He's one of those people who I'd see at gigs and then he'd occasionally ring me up and we'd have really long conversations. So I don't know that I'd call it a proper normal relationship in that I never really hung out with him or anything. But I feel like I know him quite well because I kind of know what his interests are. And he would send me bits of books. Like he sent me Society of the Spectacle, which he just thought I should read. You know what I mean? So he would send me stuff like that. He sort of introduced me to Situationism in an odd way. And yeah, I liked his way of thinking about things. It was quite kind of, he had a good understanding of the history of culture that I think is sort of missing, actually, in a lot of modern artists. A lot of modern artists just sort of have a few reference points and then they set off and they go. And me and Rob were a bit like that, to be honest. But he had a really deep understanding of cultural practice that's quite unusual within music. It's more common within art, really. But yeah, I liked him. He was cool. But I wouldn't say I knew him that well. Have you ever been to a psychoanalyst or therapist? Well, I mean, clinical psychologist, but psychoanalysis is a very particular kind of stream of thinking. So I'm not that interested in that, to be honest. And therapist could just be anybody from a counsellor through to a clinical psychologist. It's just too much of a vague term. So I don't really know what to say about that. Upstream colour, yeah, I love it. So if we're on that tip, Under the Skin, Glazer's film, is amazing. It's just totally amazing. It's one of my favourite science fiction films ever. I love Upstream Colour. I think it's really good. I love the way it's shot is really odd. It reminds me a little bit of being on acid. It's super strange, especially the outdoor daylight stuff. I don't know what he's using, what lenses and stuff, what cameras, but it's got a very odd feel to it. Very particular. Yeah, I think Shane Carruth is one of those people, I just wish he'd made more work, But I get that it takes him ages to do anything. I can relate to that. So, yeah. I just wish there were more films of his that we could talk about. Modern science fiction, I kind of... Some films I enjoy and they're a bit ropey, but, I'll kind of enjoy it because the concept is a bit mind-bending. I quite like Coherence from that point of view. It was a bit silly, but it was sort of... And there were things about it that were clunky, and it was a bit like... The acting was a bit ropey, but I enjoyed it. It was sort of shit and good at the same time. Yeah, I don't know, like, I think Under the Skin is so much better than a lot of films. I don't really know. There's not a lot I can say about it because it's just so atmospheric and sort of interesting. And the whole idea of not knowing what you are, I think it clicks with me somehow. I found it really kind of engaging, and I could relate, even though I'm not, an alien who goes around hunting people in a van so that they can lure them into a pool of black sludge. I don't do that. Yeah, it's good. Hello from Wilmslow. Do you know it? Of course I know Wilmslow. Fucking hell. Hello, Wilmslow. Yeah. Is it possible you're going to do a massive SoundCloud dump like Aphex Twin? No, probably not. I don't know if I need to. Plus, I think a lot of our unreleased stuff, I sort of, it's unreleased for a reason, Like I wouldn't have leaked that Hano thing. I wouldn't have leaked that myself. That was just, they're the kind of tracks that I'd like. I don't mind them being on a CD to DJ with at someone's party where people are only going to hear them once and not know what it was and not really remember it. But I wouldn't really want them out there because they're just fuckabouts or sketches. You know what I mean? So, and some of the Guestcon ones are things that are just tryouts where we've tried a few things out and we've ended up nailing it on another track and that ended up coming out. But them bits are just bits that, they're not meant to be out there really, but they're alright for DJing with, and I don't mind if some of my mates are going to play them in DJ sets, but I'm not sure that I'd want to have them as a release. So yeah, I guess you're seeing behind the curtain a bit there, but I'm not sure I want to just do that because I think that there should be a kind of line drawn, and I think I've always been at the Kubrick mentality of just getting all your archive and burning it just before you die. That's my tip. That's probably what I'm going to do. I'm off Facebook, but I am trying to get to Mastodon. Is that you, Alexa? Yeah, if you're serious about that, it's I don't know how much you'd like it. You might find some of the people a bit annoyingly pseudo-intellectual, but and the politics might wear you down a bit, knowing you. But at the same time, there's a lot of smart people on there, so ups and downs basically. You should try it. I like it personally. I think at the moment it's nascent enough to be like a good social network. But as soon as all the idiots flood in, it's gonna turn to shit. You know that, right? Like they all do. So, but for now, yeah, it's good. It's good. You can make friends on there. Looking at how you are on Twitter, I think you probably fit in there. There's some brains on there. Erasure was the gayest show I ever saw. Just wild for the 80s. Brad, I mean, look, I'm kind of, Erasure were very gay, weren't they? They were about as gay as you can get. Yeah. Andy Bell is probably the gayest person ever to be on stage. That's worth thinking about, isn't it? Right, so there's a gamelan in Parallel Triangle. Where did you get it? Barley. I always suspected you borrowed the one Tom Jenkinson brought back from Asia, which you used in Gong Acid. Yeah, it's funny that, because when I went there, he was about to go there and he was really weirded out. So we actually got, because I bought quite a lot of gamelan stuff when I was over there because it's cheap basically, and they'll export it for you and everything. So as long as you're willing to wait for the shipping, it's really cheap to get it. And you can just get them to custom build you it, basically. So I'd done that. So yeah, it was around the same time, but I think we went to different places. I'm not sure if we got them built in the same place. But yeah, I gave them away to the Suffolk Schools Gamelan when me and Chantal split up, which is 2005. So I haven't had them since then, but I had them all the time I was living in Suffolk. So I basically bought them in 99. Got them shipped to Sheffield and they sat in boxes for ages, and then the lads who were storing them which was a studio in Sheffield, a lad called Dave Willie, don't know if he's Wilkinson or Williamson, but he's a lad who lived in Sheffield, and they'd opened them up him and this other lad Ross, who were working on stuff, and they used him a bit, I think. And then I took him to Suffolk, and I had him from about 2000 to just before, like, late 99 to 2005. So yeah, I had him downstairs, and so we had a studio was in like a barn, and then downstairs in the barn I just had all the gongs laid out, like a whole room full of them. But I only used them on a few tracks. I used them on Viscose Poise and Parallel Triangle that we've released, and there's a few probably unreleased ones as well. So, do you often get inspired or scared of your dreams? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I have fucking really weird dreams that I can't put my finger on. Fever dreams were probably the most scary. Actually, the few episodes when I was a kid where I had a fever and I'd have what I believe may be Alice in Wonderland syndrome, where I'd get disturbing sense of, first of all, objects that were far away would appear to be right in front of me but very small, but and then or very big, and so I'd have this weird thing of not being able to gauge distance, and scale would get mixed up, and I'd have these weird fucking dreams that weren't really dreams. They were sort of almost like a bit like tripping or something, where you kind of be trying to conceptualize things that were impossible. So you'd have like things like an impossibly heavy rock suspended from an impossibly thin filament, or something that was sort of like an impossibly large curved surface that appeared flat because it was right next to your eyeball, or like a sphere that was also a kind of weird folded, like a Pringle shape, or like a sort of weird banana shaped sphere, and weird sounds that were like impossibly loud, and this feeling of like touching your fingertips together, but it also being like this kind of weird, like a textural confusion, and the feeling of the very edges of your fingertips touching, the very kind of where they're almost not touching but they are, being like an impossibly large surface. None of this shit makes any sense, but it was like, at the time it was really vivid and really, really fucking disturbing. And it's sort of like you can feel a weird sense of the infinite, and like the word perfect. Something about the word perfect. I don't even know what that means, but yeah, those were pretty disturbing episodes, I've got to say. I was pretty young, and not knowing the difference between little and big, and like getting confused between things that was impossibly tiny and impossibly huge, and then feeling like the same thing, and my brain not being able to understand what that means. You know, I was probably only about 7 or 8 or something when I was having these episodes. I had quite a few of them because I had like a lot of fever when I was a kid because various health issues that I had. So yeah, long story. I could go on about that for ages, but yeah, basically the long and short of that is, yeah, dreams are fucking strange, and I have a lot of very strange dreams that are almost like science fiction scenarios, like very, very odd stuff. One where lightning was striking the ground, but it was solid, so it was like immediately freezing into these giant kind of crystals. Anyway, I think people describing their dreams is quite boring, so I'm going to stop now. I often think about that Paul McCartney from the Beatles quote where it's like, you can't sit around and wait to be inspired, you have to put in the work to find inspiration. Yeah, for me, definitely. Like, I only get ideas when I'm halfway through doing something that was sort of directionless, right? So you can start off without any sense of what it is that you're trying to achieve and just twat things out, and then at some point you kind of have an aha moment, you know. But you have to dig to find it. It's not just going to reveal itself to you. I'm not the type of person who can sort of sit and imagine a track and then realise the track. It doesn't work for me like that at all. I have to be in it to see the stuff, you know. Does Drain 3 exist? I don't know. fuck Freud, all my homies hate Freud. This, yeah, I did. As a kid, right, I preferred Jung to Freud. Like, I think Freud was right about some stuff like very early child development and how important it is and all that. I think he was probably he had some good intuitions about that, but a lot of the stuff about everything being about your relationship with your mother is just like, what? Too much coke, man. But like, I liked Jung and I like the idea of archetypes, and I found it quite a romantic, kind of appealing idea. I like the idea that your dreams are sort of acting out scenarios that are hard coded almost. I find that quite appealing, but I'm not sure what it means, and I'm not sure if he was right either. It's just appealing on some level, you know. Jung's one of those people I rediscover every few years and think, yeah, man, fucking hell. So yeah, more than I would Freud. I find Freud a little bit, you know, he's like a dictator, isn't he, or something, you know. Any comments on the role humour plays in your music? Yeah, I mean, it does, because I kind of like, I like absurd humour a lot. So there's a kind of, there's sometimes there is some, like I'd say, like getting Gant's Graph on MTV was kind of a situationist, absurdist move. It was about like, because we knew it was really good, don't get me wrong. Like, we knew Alex was onto something and that this was some heavy fucking, incredibly involving, kind of synesthetic, almost kind of heavyweight moves, amazing CG and beautiful aesthetics. Everything about it, we'd nailed it. But we also knew that putting that shit on MTV was like, it would be ridiculous to get people to watch that and be like, there you go, there's a pop video and it's just this fucking meshing cube flying around. Like, we thought that was funny. Thought there was a kind of humour element to it, but at the same time we knew it was good. So quite often there's things like that in our tracks where we're just like, yeah, it's quite funny and absurd to do this, because people wouldn't have the nuts to do it, you know, because they'd be too worried about meeting demographic criteria or whatever the fuck it is, right? So we don't really care about that stuff. We're just like, wow, this is really good, innit? Yeah, it'd be funny to do this. So yeah, there's like always a kind of, I'd say a cheekiness, but it's more about context and understanding that some things you're just not supposed to fucking do. But why? Why are you not supposed to do that? It's really good. Why are you not supposed to do it? You know, I have to be fucking, you know, driving around in a lowrider looking cool. Like, that's what a pop video is supposed to be, not like, you know, not some fucking cube going like that, you know what I mean? So, but that's what we like, so at the same time, why not, you know what I mean? Shoe bills, yeah, I've talked about shoe bills already. Come on, who doesn't like shoe bills? Fascists don't like shoe bills. That's why you can't trust them. There used to be, Bleep used to sell the digitals for Keen 2 track or Tech remix single. There's a vinyl rip that had pops in it and they took it down. Wondering if more of a source for those tracks. Yeah, I mean, I could probably do that because it's only 2 tracks, and I probably could find the DATs, but they're in Manchester, so it'd be a bit. But at some point, yeah, if you really want, I'll get onto it and we can get them remastered and put up proper digis for them, because I like them tracks. They're good. And I think I know where they are, so yeah. Chris Nolan, Denis Villeneuve. Okay. These are big topics, both of them. And I don't want to just dismiss them like and just be like, nah, you know what I mean? Because I think it's not fair. Chris Nolan, right, okay, so I like his Batman films. I thought the third one was fucking stupid, where he's just going around with back pain for a fucking old film, just like, my back. I was like, that's not what you want, is it? It's a fucking Batman film, you don't want that. So I didn't, and I thought Bane was shit. I don't like Bane. He's one of the least interesting characters for me, you know. And his voice, he was just doing a bad impression of Patrick McGoohan, I think. So, not a fan of the third Batman film. I like the first two. I think Heath Ledger's Joker's quite good. It was sort of, at first I was like, oh, he's just doing the Jack Nicholson one, but with a twist. But like, I actually quite like it. He's charismatic enough, and he nails it. And you know, the scene with the pencil and the table is just fantastic. The whole scene in the room where he's in there is just brilliant. I love that. There's some elements of those films that I like, but I don't like the kind of, you know, the kind of, some of the kind of meta-narrative stuff, you know, the sort of tacit implication that it's fine to just fucking monitor everybody if you've got a bigger purpose that needs to be served. Like, just fuck off, man. Like, no. Like, there's some stuff in there that I just can't get down with. Some of the action scenes were good, though. I like all the driving in a tunnel stuff. I think it's all really smartly done. I think the new Batman film has a beautiful feel to it, but there's something... I've only seen it once, though, but there's something a bit off about it. But anyway, I don't want to just talk about Batman films. But Nolan, yeah, I mean, I thought Inception was messy. I didn't really like it. It just felt too long. I think a lot of Nolan's films feel a bit long to me. I think... yeah, I thought, what's that latest one called now? The backwards one. It was alright. It just didn't make a lot of sense from a physics point of view, really. I found it a little bit, this isn't causality, what's happening? Like, it's very difficult for me to wrap my head around how that would work on a physical level. And I'm sure that a lot of people probably felt like that watching it. Tenet, that's the one. Yeah, but there was I quite liked how neatly the story dovetailed with itself. I thought that was clever, but it was a little bit like that. I don't know whether that's enough. But yeah, anyway, there were some elements of it I liked, but you know, largely I just thought, I think Memento's very, very good. Yeah, I don't know what else to say really. Villeneuve, I don't know. Didn't really like his Dune. Thought it was a bit beige and a bit Zimmer, a bit wah, even though it wasn't really that from Zimmer, but it still was a bit. But it was just a bit beige. Not that I don't like beige, I like beige, but I just don't want to watch it for fucking 2 hours. 2 hours of beige. It was just all a little bit unimaginative. I found Lynch's Dune to be way more visually exciting and kind of arresting. Even though it was a mess for lots of fucking reasons, I just found the aesthetic of it way more interesting and innovative and exciting. But it might just be an age thing, that I'd seen it at a certain age, but, you know, I think I might even prefer the Lynch Dune to the Villeneuve Dune. Anyway. Arrival, I want to like. I kind of like the idea of the language being how it is. I quite like Wolfram's involvement in that. I think that's all very interesting, but I think the whole kind of time travel sort of thing in there is a bit... And I think the whole kind of attitude and the grandeur thing, what bugs me about this new sci-fi stuff is that it's just trying to bowl audiences over with a lot of grandeur and kind of epic feels, and not getting in there with some mindfuck amazing ideas. I prefer sci-fi that's about mindfuck amazing ideas personally, but you know, yeah. Wong Kar-wai I don't know, and I will check, so recommend me some Wong Kar-wai. I watched that The Burning recently and thought that was quite good. It's fucking weird though. Oh, actually, what film did I watch recently? The Innocents, Norwegian one, about kids. That was really good, I thought. Anyway. What do I feel about the Orteca Discord? I've never been on there. I don't really Discord much. I've used it a little bit. I used IRC a little bit back in the day, but it was just too many people hang out on IRC. Is what I didn't like about IRC back in the day, though, was that it was just somewhere that people would go every day, and they'd be like, "Oh, morning, June. Oh, what are you having for dinner today?" And it was just like a bit, "Oh, fucking hell, I can't do it." So yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I probably wouldn't hang out there myself, but maybe I would. I don't know. I'm not that much of a kind of constant socialiser. I tend to socialise sporadically, so it's probably not the kind of thing I would do. But and being in a community, I kind of, you know, we're more of a kind of, I'm more of a message board person than a kind of instant chat in a group type person. I way prefer talking to people individually, and I don't mind posting things and waiting. So, you know. And yeah, I quite liked, you know, originally before 4chan turned to shit, I quite liked how fast it was and how you weren't really evaluating stuff based on personas, but that's a completely different thing, isn't it? So we don't need to talk about that. Is Andy Maddox Velocity Kendall? Nope. What is the vocal sample being chopped up in second seat? Oh yeah, I'm not telling you. Do you speak to Boards of Canada often? Nah, I ain't talked to Boards in fucking hell, probably 20 years. Is it a Surrey Perry remix you're playing live? I don't know which bit you mean, but not intentionally, but it might just be the same keys. I hadn't noticed, I don't know. In early 00s, I saw you perform one night at Bowery Ballroom in NYC, then the next afternoon at Princeton. Yeah, there's a picture of that Princeton gig on Wikipedia, and it's like dated way wrong. It was 2001, that gig. So I don't know why it's dated. It's dated something like 2007 or something. Which doesn't even make sense. I don't even think we were doing gigs that year. But yeah. That Princeton gig, I don't know. The booking came through our agent at the time, so I wouldn't know how it actually came about, if you know what I mean. It would have just been added to the list because the date made sense from a routing perspective. So, but Paul Lansky was there. I remember meeting him there. He was really nice. It was good to meet him because I really rated his stuff at that point. Still do, but you know, I think I'd only discovered it a couple of years before that, so I was just like, oh wow, fucking, we're at Princeton, we've got to meet Paul. And then somebody hooked us up with him, and he turned out to be a really nice guy, so that was good. So yeah, that happened. And on that same tour, we had Curtis Rhodes supporting us on one day, and we had Yasuneo Tone on another, because we tried to get local supports where we could. So in LA, we had Curtis. That was fucking ace. That was a really good gig. He had just like a red light on him. The vibe in that room was amazing. Yeah, the Princeton thing, I don't know how it came about. It was a bit mad afterwards because we fucking ended up in some kind of college party where everyone was using giant bongs and fucking taking their clothes off and stuff. That was a bit insane. I think Russell got off with some girl. Yeah, it was mad. It was mad, actually. It was chaos. American students really party, don't they? They really go for it. Like, whoa, we're going to party. It's just like, fucking hell, you're really going for it, you lot. Right, Right, where are we now? Do you think electronic music is too much about gear and fancy equipment nowadays? I mean, you know, there's a lot of like, you're gonna always get this, you know, I know the best way of doing this, that's the only piece of equipment you should use, or, you know, like, you're gonna get them people anyway. You've always had them in the sort of sound world when I was in college, because I went to sound engineering college briefly in the late 80s, it was like that then. You know, people had very kind of fixed ideas about what, you know, about things being objectively better than other things. You know what I mean? That kind of thinking. I find it all a little bit, and this sort of idea about fancy equipment is a very kind of, you know, you have to believe in a kind of in there being shared values and these kind of objective truths about equipment, and then have arguments with other people about objective truths about equipment. It's just all a little bit fucking hell. Does taste ever come into this? Like, what makes a piece of equipment fancy? Just the price, or the fact that everybody says it's good? You know, a mass approval. Like, you know, what is it? Superan said you can't trust the public. The public, like, he said some shit thing like the public like Britney Spears or something shit thing like that, and you're like, well, you know, not that I'm not dissing Britney Spears there, by the way. I'm just saying. But you know what I mean? It's just that idea that, like, it's not just because lots of people think something's good doesn't make it good. Do you know what I mean? There are lots of reasons why that might be the case. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, lot to think about. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, you know, some equipment's good to me, right? I like some equipment, so do I think music's about that? I mean, probably to some extent with me, yeah. I mean, if I make a tool and think, fucking hell, this is ace, I'm getting ace shit out of this tool, then I guess that's fancy equipment. So yeah, I guess, you know, it must be about that to some extent. But do I think, you know, that you need fancy equipment to make good music? No. That, you know, you don't. You can make good music on shit equipment. You can make shit music on good equipment. It's not really about, there's not like a linear relationship between the two things. So, you know, it could be more about that than it needs to be, if you know what I mean. You know, it's mainly just about flipping stuff and having a fly idea or moving in a weird way, you know what I mean? It's like, do you have to have good shoes to be a good dancer? I mean, maybe it helps, but it's not, you know, there's a lot more to it than that, isn't there? So, were you guys into breakdancing or sports? Yeah, I mean, Rob is quite a good popper. Partly because his uncle moved to LA in the 80s, so he's got that kind of tie to LA and LA culture and all that, and he kind of, so he's got that going on, and he sort of, he's quite good. He doesn't pop anymore. You have to kind of get him a bit drunk, but yeah, he can pop pretty good. And like, Jed is a good popper. I'm like not very good. I'm quite a shit popper, but I made mean tapes, so I got to hang out with all the cool electro kids because I was like the DJ guy, you know what I mean? So not really very good. I mean, I could turtle backspin. I could do about half a windmill, and then I'd just fall over because my legs weren't long enough to properly windmill. So I was kind of like a shit break dancer. I was really interested in it though. You know, and I like dressed the part, and I made good tapes. So, but I had mates who were fucking good dancers, like really good, kind of embarrassingly good. And it's mad to think that they're all just working quite boring jobs now. You know what I mean? And they're not really interested in music anymore, but they were so fucking into it when they were like 11, 12. So it's mad thinking back to them days, like how important music was to us all in middle school, and how much of a big deal it was, you know. And how massive electro was in the 80s in the UK. It's strange talking to Americans who didn't really have a lot of access to it unless they were of clubbing age. So if they were younger, they wouldn't have been exposed to it much other than seeing little bits and bobs on telly. We were seeing fucking loads of it. There was like countless BBC Two documentaries on it, and fucking, you know, we had Wild Style. I remember in 83 or 84, Wild Style was on TV in the UK. And Style Wars, and Beat Street, and everybody had seen Beat Street and breakdance. But you had like the more obscure kids had seen Style Wars, and Wild Style everybody knew because everyone knew someone who had a copy of it, and you know what I mean, there was all that was going on. But you also had all these weird documentaries like that BBC Hip Hop Street History, whatever it was called, like Beat This or whatever, and these weird like bombing and all these other weird shows. like programs, one-off things. And then later you had shit like Bad Meaning Good that was on, and that was weird because we all thought Tim Westwood was a fucking weirdo. Being from up north, we were exposed to him really. So up north we had Stu Allen, so and before that we had Mike Shaft, and I guess before that, I mean, there was Mike Shaft, and he was playing like, you know, the Chad Jackson Best of '84 mix, which was a huge kind of thing around Manchester. Everyone had that on tape. And then there was like, and just in general, like people in school listening to Mike Shaft, and then later, for a little bit, it was Lee Brown, and then it was Stu Allen. And Stu Allen had a huge impact on Manchester music scene in general. He really shaped it. And plus we had that shop Spinning, which I first went in Spinning when I was, I think, 12. Me and my mate Oggy went to Manchester, and Oggy's dad dropped us off and just says, I'll meet you back here in an hour. And me and Oggy went off to Spinning because Oggy knew where Spinning was. And I remember walking in there and it just being like really small and really full of people and everyone jumping and just hip-hop and electro tunes, and just being blown away and just thinking, fuck. It was that was the first shop that I'd been in that sold imports. I couldn't believe the price of the records. There was albums were like £8.50, which was unheard of. And I was thinking, fuck me, it's so dear, all this. So I'd just save up for weeks and weeks to just buy one record, you know, and the rest of it I'd just tape off Stu Allen. So, yeah, I don't know, could go on about that shit for hours, but it gets boring for all you young people. You said in the last AMA that you don't consider your your music as experimental. How would you consider it? It's just fucking what I'm into, isn't it? It's just music. It's just tunes I like. How can we get your bandmate to join Twitch as well? Seems like there's a lot only he could answer. Yeah, there is, quite probably. Anything about his tunes. Like, he's on here already. I think I'm following him, so if you look on my follows, you'll see him. He's like Arteca with a 7 instead of a T, so... Parallel Suns is a Nord lead 1 through a Lexicon Reverb, and then slabs of that were then taken and kind of edited and faded into each other, kind of thing. So I had loads of different notes in the DAW, which I think was DP at the time, and then I was doing loads of crossfade in between all these different slabs. So yeah, it was a bit long process really to get the result, considering it's just a sort of short ambient thing, but it gives it that weird wet but dry sound. So someone else who got the depth perception fevers. Yeah, they're weird, right? They're fucking weird. I'm not really sure what to make of that. Impossibly loud noise. It's funny seeing all you lot being like, oh shit, yeah, because them dream things are fucking weird, and nobody really talks about them. I found one thread once on the Fortean Times forum about this, and it was just all people who'd had it and who were all going, shit, yeah, I had that when I was a kid, and they'd never talked about it, or if they had brought it up in conversation, other people didn't know. But yeah, I think quite a lot of people experience it and don't really have the words for it and then forget about it. Any fond memories of seeing Jeff Mills play? Yeah, at the Orbit in Leeds, fucking absolutely slamming. Like, I'd never seen anything like it. It was mad. It was just like, it was like someone slamming the door over and over. It was like so banging. And not in a gabba way where you're kind of bouncing. It was just like this kind of bang, 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 bang. Just absolutely banging. Yeah, like really relentless. You know, when I first heard Mills, right, I first heard Waveforms. And I thought it was German or something because of his name, Jeff Mills. You know, it didn't really work like a typical black guy surname. So I was thinking, what is this? Like, I thought he was some kind of European or like German bloke or something like that, or maybe American white guy, because it just sounded so not like black music. It was just so banging and kind of relentless. And then, but then when I heard him DJing, it kind of made a bit more sense, because you could tell he'd been an hip hop DJ, because he was really mixing it up loads, and there was a real roughness to it. And I got this. That was when it clicked, because I was like, oh fuck yeah, they're tools that he's using, and he's using them in this rough way. So yeah, I fucking love Mills. So much energy, and really good tension building. I seen him play at Lost once, and he was doing shit like just pulling the kick out for a good 4 minutes, and just getting everybody really hyped. And then he'd just flip the kick in, and the room just lifts. Like, I know it's such a basic move, but he'd have the nuts to do it for ages. Like, he's one of the best tension building DJs of techno that I've ever seen. Just amazing. When he was at his peak, kind of mid to late 90s, just untouchable. Like, so much funk as well, but sort of hidden within this relentlessness and hardness. So yeah, I really rate Mills. Mills was great. Love Mills. You can't not rate Mills, really. I think, especially having grown up on hip hop, you really get a sense of what he's trying to do. Because he's not doing hip hop stylistically or rhythmically or anything like that, but he just gets it. You can tell he gets it. Do you do a lot of lucid dreaming? I talked about lucid dreaming in the last one. Not intentionally, no, but it happens by accident sometimes. I am a job. I like that. Am I a job? Am I a job? Am I a job? Hey. Yeah, someone's saying they don't really remember their dreams anymore. Are you a chronic stoner by any chance? Because when I was smoking loads and loads, I used to forget my dreams all the time. I'm sure I was having them, but I just wouldn't remember them ever. Only if I woke up like mid-dream, I'd remember them. What's your opinion on cocaine? Do you enjoy it or hate it? I don't really like it. I don't like what it does to other people. One thing Coke does, I don't know if you know this, but like Coke, what it does is it makes you less sensitive to negative criticism. And so, which is an odd thing for a drug to do. It's very specific. But if you read about it, it'll bear out what I'm saying. I'm not just pulling this out my arse. It's like, there's studies that will reflect this. And then when you're not on Coke later, chronically and for quite a long time, you'll be more sensitive to negative criticism. So there's a problem that cokeheads have, in that they're really fucking thin-skinned when they're not on Coke. And when they're on Coke, they're wankers because they can't detect when other people are pissed off with them. It's not because they're actually wankers, it's just that they don't get that feedback from looking at other people's eyes and faces, that they need to fucking rein it in a bit, So they can be real pricks. And, that can manifest itself as a kind of arrogance. Oh, I've got a woodpecker here, drinking out of some water. You can see this guy. Woodpeckers are fucking cool. Right, so, yeah, yeah, I don't know if I don't know, I wouldn't say I hate cocaine, but I just like, it's one of the worst party drugs for me. It's one of the drugs that makes socialising really difficult, but makes other people enjoy being out. It makes the person on it enjoy being out, and everybody else think, Christ, what a prick, So, if you want to seem like a prick, yeah, do loads of coke, I don't think it really works socially, but, I guess if you've got really bad anxiety, maybe it might help you. personally, but if you're going to do it, I'd advise never going anywhere when you're on it. So don't be around other humans. Yeah, Freud, personal bias and skeletons. Yeah, I think he was just talking about himself a lot. Yeah, Freud was a cokehead, right? So, thoughts on V Snares? Yeah, he's fucking brilliant, isn't he? He's got such a kind of, such an identifiable character musically. I can always spot his tracks. Like, they're really easy to spot. You know, they feel different to other people. I mean, I've heard it said that he's sort of what kind of tip he's on and all that, but I think with his stuff it's all about character, and you can hear his character, like, immediately. And he's certainly really good at arrangements. Like, I always really rated his arrangements. They're like odd. You know, they have a kind of, he's really good at building tension as well, I think. My grandma worked at Kurzweil. That's cool. I like that. My grandma worked at Kurzweil. That's better than my dad worked at Nintendo. Seeing you all arguing about Freud and Jung here, this is an old argument, by the way, this debate. It's not really worth having nowadays, but, you know, when I was young I found it a bit exciting. What's your favourite food, drink? Seen that picture of you guys enjoying a bowl of pasta, have you? I don't think I've seen that. Where's that from? Favourite food, drink? Fucking hell, I don't really have a favourite. I don't have favourites of anything. You know what I mean? It's all mood dependent. I can't answer favourites questions, so let's not do them anymore. With Phoenicia. Oh, that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, like, there's a story that goes along with that picture, but I'm not going to tell it. I'll get in bother. Ever listen to Black Midi? Don't think so. Favourite books? Literary writers, philosophers. I mean, I like Philip K. Dick. I used to like Vonnegut when I was young. You know, it was sort of irreverent and it was an interesting approach to describing humans. It sort of appeals to the bit of me that used to like Mork and Mindy when I was a kid, so. And yeah, I quite like Philip K. Dick still. I like his shorts more than I like his novels, actually. And I've read most of them now. I really like that one, The Electric Ant. That's one of my favourite stories of his. It's such a head fuck, the whole idea of it is just, it's just fucking brilliant. Favourite Norwegian artist? Lasse Marhaug. I'm saying his name wrong, I know, because I'm not noshk enough, but yeah, I love his stuff. Lasse's really good. Yeah. There's another artist I want to say, but I'm deliberately not saying it. So. Third Batman was pretty whack, yeah. Fucking, me back, for 2 hours. Fucking hell. Don't think so. It's really bad. It's like, if I want to see that, I'll just fucking go around my dad's house. Fucking hell. Do you have any thoughts on ontology? I mean, I'm British and I grew up in the 70s, so it's appealing to me because, and I really like Richard Littler's stuff, Scarfolk. Like, I really like that. And obviously I like Boards of Canada, right? And there's a kind of element of that in their stuff. And it was partly what drew me to it, was that they had this, and and it was clear that it was there. Even though they've spent a lot of time in Canada and they'd sort of not really been in Scotland, they still had this tug in this direction. And yeah, I mean, I can relate to a lot of it because I've grown up in a kind of, not in a really necessarily very spooky town, but in a town where you were close to areas where there was spooky history. So yeah, it kind of, and my mum's always been a little bit interested in the unexplained. We had all weird books on the unexplained. Actually, the first time I got really spun out and fucking terrified was reading about, in one of her books, about spontaneous human combustion. Holy fuck. Like, that terrified me as a kid. Kept thinking it was going to happen to me. Like, you do, don't you? When you read about things like that, you're like, oh God, what would that be like? Oh my God. So yeah, and looking at old pictures of, supposed ghost photographs, which seem a bit silly now to think about, but as a kid I would look at them, spend ages staring at them, thinking, what is that? What am I looking at there? Because I didn't really understand double exposure and these very basic things, The idea of ectoplasm appearing during seances, that was quite, the fuck's happening there? What were they doing? Were they just getting some weird jelly and just throwing it around? What were they, do you know what I mean? I'm going to pretend there's some ectoplasm. So, yeah, so, obviously, the whole idea of it is a bit appealing. You have to excuse me for a sec while I just screw this on. And, yeah, I don't know. I can relate. But I think as a sort of music scene and all that, I'm not that interested. But I kind of I like spooky things, so I guess I can sort of relate to it. But it gets a little bit I get what buttons you're pushing, and I get what references you're going for. And so it becomes a little bit, done after a while. But yeah, there are overlaps with that stuff that I really rate. I'd say that, that there are overlaps between sort of Boards of Canada and Look Around You and Richard Littler and these kind of things, where it's sort of a slightly scary alternative version of what the 70s felt like when you were a kid. So it's sort of more about your memory of the 70s than what the 70s were actually like, you know what I mean? And I find that really relatable. I love Look Around You. I think it's fantastic. The first series, where it's doing Experiment, ITV Experiment Granada. Because I grew up with that shit on TV and used to watch it and feel, like it was all a little bit weird. The weird voiceover and the weird blue background. And yeah, it was weird. So anyway, that's my comment on ontology. Which isn't really related to ontology at all, is it? So, I need to check Lynch's due. Simmer always gets blah. Oh my God, is that how far up we are? Am I that far behind already? The original Star Wars was pretty beige. Yeah, I guess it was, I got this feeling about Star Wars that it massively rips off Gatchaman. Which, for reasons, which I'll explain if you're interested, but I won't now. So, right, I need to piss, so I'm going to go and piss and then be back shortly. Won't be that long. Hold on, stop.